This is a call to order the December 1st, 2021 regular meeting of the Ducktown Council. And at this time, I'd like to ask outgoing council member Nancy Caviness and incoming council member Tony Shano if they would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, I would like to inform the town clerk that Rob Mooney has been excused from the meeting. And we're going to go on to item number 2, swearing in of town council members. At this time, I'm going to ask former council member Nancy Caviness so she'd take a seat in the audience. Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
I turn it over to town clerk Lori Ackerman.
Good evening. I would like to swear in the new council members. When I call your name, please come up to the podium. And if you brought someone with you to hold the Bible, have them come as well. We'll go in alphabetical order, starting with Don Kingston.
Right at the top.
Sharon, do you want to come up?
Sharon.
Busy talking. Okay? Okay. Raise your right hand, and after I give the oath, say I will, or I swear, or I will. I, Donald Kingston, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties imposed upon me by law as council member for the town of Duck, North Carolina, so help me God.
I swear.
You're welcome. Tony Shiano's next. Raise your right hand. I, Anthony Shiano, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties imposed upon me by law as council member for the town of Duck, North Carolina, so help me God.
I swear.
Sign right there. Thank you. And you can have a seat. Monica? Nancy, do you want to hold the Bible for Monica? Yes. Okay.
This is perfect.
Raise your right hand. How many years? Just kidding. I, Monica Thibodeau, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties imposed upon me by law as council member for the town of Duck, North Carolina, so help me God.
I swear.
Thank you, Nancy. Monica, I need your signature real quick. Thank you. And Sandy Whitman. Ready? Raise your right hand. I, Sanford Whitman, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties imposed upon me by law as council member for the town of Duck, North Carolina, so help me God.
I swear.
I just need your signature there. Thank you.
The former council is now dismissed, and at this time, I'm going to turn over to Town Manager Drew Havens, and just going to carry the meeting on.
Thank you, Councilman Kingston. It seems weird to say it that way, but Councilman. So our town code of ordinances requires that the mayor be elected from and by the town council. So accordingly, I will accept nominations for the office of mayor for the town of Duck.
I'd like to make a nomination for Don Kingston for mayor of Duck.
Nomination for Don Kingston. Any other nominations for the office of mayor? Hearing none, nominations are closed. All those in favor by voice vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to do the election of the Mayor Pro Temp. We'll take nominations from the council. I'd like to start out by nominating Mayor Pro Temp Monica Thibodeau for another term. Are there any other nominations from the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Monica.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to open up for public comments. If anyone would like to address the council this evening, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
On the other side of the podium. That is strange.
You couldn't resist.
Nancy Caviness, 103 Georgetown Sands Road. About 1,000 people heard me say this on Thanksgiving morning, but I want to extend my thanks to the town of Duck and to the entire community, residents, visitors, property owners, business owners, family and friends. The Advice 5K Turkey Trot celebrated its 25th anniversary on Thanksgiving, and it was an unbelievably fabulous day. Not only were we thrilled to be back after having to cancel last year, but we were back in force with the celebration concert out on the green the day before, which was wonderful, and thank you to the town for permitting us to do so. But we had set, you probably have heard, we set an extraordinary fundraising goal this year, double of what we normally take in, of $25,000. And I announced on Thanksgiving Day, on Thanksgiving morning, we had already received $11,000 in direct donations to our charitable endowment. And then when you put that together with the race proceeds, we look to grow our endowment by $33,500, which is just unbelievable. Over the years, the race has raised thousands of dollars for nonprofits on the Outer Banks, and we couldn't be more thrilled. And I'm very happy to say that the money keeps rolling in thanks to the benevolence and the generosity of many businesses and small business owners and artisans here on the Outer Banks. Yesterday was Giving Tuesday. We received a $1,000 donation from a business owner yesterday, so probably by the end of the year, I don't want to speak, I don't get out over my skis, but probably by the end of the year, we're looking at $35,000. So I couldn't be happier. My heart is so happy. Thank you to everybody that made it possible, for all the people who have supported us since our first little run in 1996. And again, thank you to the town, public safety, and everybody that had a hand in making it such a success. Thanks.
Would anyone else like to address the council? There being no one, we're going to close public comments. We'll go on to item number 3, special presentations. First one being introduction swearing in of Police Officer Jeremy Hemilright. And I'd like to ask Chief Jeff Ackerman to go to the podium.
Good evening. Proud to be able to be the first to congratulate each of you and welcome you to another term. Mayor, members of council, those joining with us tonight, beside me is our newest officer, Jeremy Hemilright. Jeremy's a native of Dare County and began his law enforcement career with the Manio Police Department after graduating from basic law enforcement training in 2002. In 2007, Officer Hemilright joined the Southern Shores Police Department, where he remained until we were lucky enough to borrow him. Officer Hemilright comes to the Duck Police Department with 19 years of experience, invaluable experience. He holds an advanced law enforcement certificate. He's a general instructor, a specialized firearms instructor, field training officer, law enforcement sniper, and an armorer on multiple weapon systems. Officer Hemilright has attended countless training courses ranging from tactical operations to investigations. But Officer Hemilright's greatest accomplishment, hands down, is his ability to communicate with people calmly and professionally. His laid-back demeanor and his witty sense of humor have earned Officer Hemilright the respect of his peers and the public. He served as a police officer on the Outer Banks for 19 years. I've had the privilege of knowing Officer Hemilright for many years, having worked side by side here at Southern Shores. So when he reached out about one of our new positions, I have to admit I was over the moon with the opportunity to bring an officer of Jeremy's caliber on our team. Lastly, I'll say that I've served the residents and visitors of Duck for quite a number of years, but in the last year and a half, this town, this council, our residents, visitors have given me the opportunity to literally assemble a law enforcement dream team in Duck. And it is my great honor tonight to introduce the 13th member of that 14-person team, Officer Jeremy Hemilright.
I, Jeremy R. Hemilright, do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States, and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, that I will be alert and vigilant to enforce the criminal laws of this state, that I will not be influenced in any manner on account of personal bias or prejudice, and that I will faithfully and impartially execute the duties of my office as police officer with the Duck Police Department according to the best of my skills, abilities, and judgment, so help me God.
The next presentation, introduction of Community Planner Jim Gould, Director of Community Development, Joe Hurd.
Thank you, Mayor Kingston, members of council. Now, I don't get to do this as often as there's two sitting back there, so for me, this is a big deal. Tonight, I'd like to introduce to you someone who's already become a special part of our team, Jim Gould. Jim graduated with a degree from the University of Virginia, very unique combination of environmental thought and practice with an urban planning minor. He worked for the Dare County Water Department, so has some local government experience in our area. He's also a resident of Southern Shores and very active in the community. He's crossed paths with, I'll swear, was at least half the members of our staff knew him better than I did even after the interviews. So, very clearly has a strong presence in our community already, and we're glad for that. He's a candidate who we selected because he really has a good understanding of public service, what that's all about, the importance of that, how that's different from working in the private sector. What I've come to know very quickly is that he has a very curious mind, which is really valuable as he's just soaking in so much information. He's probably his mind's spinning even as he's standing there. But, you know, really great from that standpoint, very helpful. Once you spend some time with him, you'll understand there's just he has a certain manner, a certain way about him. Hard not to like him and get along with him. So we're really glad for that as well. He's already a valuable member of our team over at Town Hall. And I think you're going to enjoy the opportunity to get to know him a little better, learn a little more about him as he becomes more involved in all the different aspects of community planning and permitting and such that he'll be with. So with that, glad to introduce Jim Gould. And I asked him to just say a few words if he wants.
Yeah, to say that I'm excited is sort of an understatement, I guess. I think right now I've just been so impressed with the warm welcome that I've received from Joe and Drew, the rest of the town staff, and I look forward to meeting every member of council, the mayor, and everyone else who's a citizen of this wonderful community or a business owner or whatever stakeholder you may claim to be in this community. So I'm just excited to have this opportunity to work in such a vibrant community. I mean, already I just started last Monday, and I've already heard music on the lawn, you know, seen thousands of people run through the streets. We're planting beach grass this week.
Yeah,
we're doing
every
a
day.
cleanup on Saturday. So, I mean, I'm so happy to be engaged with this community that I've respected for years, being a resident of the Outer Banks for over 10 years now. And I really think that it's a unique opportunity that I look forward to taking advantage of fully. So thank you very much, and I look forward. I'm 35 years old, by the way, so I look forward to a long relationship with this town. So, thanks. Thank you, Jeff.
Welcome to Doc. Okay, the next item is going to be Resolution 2115, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Duck, North Carolina, honoring and thanking Nancy Caviness for her service to the Town of Duck. At this time, I would like to ask Nancy to once again go to the podium. I would like to read the resolution. Whereas Nancy Caviness has been a resident of the Town of Duck since 1995, and whereas Ms. Caviness holds a Master of Science in Community Health Education and has enjoyed a diversified professional career in both academia and the nonprofit sector. And whereas Ms. Caviness is a firefighter for the Duck Volunteer Fire Department and served on the task force for the incorporation of the Town of Duck. Whereas Ms. Caviness has directed the annual Advice 5K Turkey Trot for many years and on her own accumulates more miles running than driving. And whereas Ms. Caviness was appointed to serve in the Town of Duck's first town council and was elected for 3 consecutive terms on the town council, serving from December 2003 until December 2009, and 5 more terms from December 2011 until December 2021. And whereas as a member of the town council, Ms. Caviness distinguished herself as a champion of the values and vision of the Town of Duck as embodied in the CAMA Land Use Plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Duck, North Carolina, this, the first day of December, 2021, that the Town Council of the Town of Duck, North Carolina, does hereby honor and thank Nancy Caviness for her service to the Town of Duck, and be further resolved that the Town Council does offer its sincere appreciation to Ms. Caviness for her commitment to the Town of Duck, and does hereby offer her best wishes for her future endeavors. Adopted this first day of December 21. With that, I'll entertain a motion from council.
So moved.
To adopt. Any discussion on the resolution on the floor?
Oh, we could discuss this all night. I don't think the resolution captures everything, Nancy, but you deserve as much and more than this resolution says. So thank you for all of us at DUC for all your service. And yes.
Thank you.
You
so much.
Amazing.
There being no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nancy, stay there.
It's weird on this side.
This is the resolution, and we are going to have it framed for you.
Thank you, Don. Thank you so much.
Can I put my arm around you?
Yes.
I have to tell one story about Nancy. 2009, I went onto the planning board. I think I was the shortest member ever. And Sharon and I went up to the fire department, I think to pick up watermelons. And I came across Nancy and she says, Don, you should run for council. So I decided to run for council in 2009, and the reason I'm still on council is because of Nancy. And I always felt bad because Nancy didn't make the council that year, and I felt that I was the reason, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed serving it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I said a couple of things at our November meeting, and I'm really without words, but to my fellow council members, to staff, to the community, it has been an honor. It has been a privilege to serve this town, regardless of what hat I was wearing. It was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life to be part of a group of people that incorporated a town. I don't think many people can say that. It was a learning experience, a visionary experience, a frustrating experience, as everybody knows, because we thought we were good and then we had to go and have a vote. But it was definitely a journey that was so well worth it. I am so proud of this town and everything that we've done. I feel like the town is a champion for good municipal government, and I trust that it is going to stay that way. We have visionary people in staff. We have visionary people that have been elected. And we have visionary people that live in the community, and we all want the same thing. And thank you. Good luck. Congratulations to all of you. I know that we're about to celebrate our 20 years. We will have another great 20 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy.
So Nancy, we'll see you at a lot of public comments, I guess. Okay, going on to item 5D, presentation of the town's fiscal year 2020-21 audit report. This time I'd like to introduce Lisa Murphy, partner with the firm of Johnson, Mazel, Straub, and Murphy. Lisa, welcome.
How are y'all? As Don said, my name is Lisa Murphy, and I'm with Johnson, Mazel, Straub, and Murphy, and I'm here to present the June 30, 2021 audit. This year you received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest form of assurance that we as auditors provide, and it was the same opinion that you received last year. So after our report is the management discussion and analysis, which is that Drew wrote, which gives you an overview of the financial statements, and it has been created so that it makes it user-friendly, so that the average person can read that and he can then go and look at the statements and understand it. So I highly recommend that each one of y'all read that. And so after that, what we have are our basic financial statements, and they start on page 14. And the first statement, the first two exhibits are the government-wide exhibits, and what they do is they show the town as a whole. They are done on the full accrual, which means that it shows both short-term and long-term information. And it's similar to the private sector balance sheet and profit and loss. So we have our assets, and we add deferred outflows, we subtract our liabilities and our deferred inflows, and we come up with the net position of the town, and the total net position of the town is $25,377,000. of that net position, which is basically the amount over our assets minus all our liabilities, so that's what we're left with, about $19,944,000 is comprised of investment in capital assets, net of related debt, and then restricted amounts. So that is about 78.6% of our net position, which is really non-available, which leaves us with our unrestricted net position of $5,433,586. And so the next page is the statement of, Exhibit 2 is the statement of activities, and this is similar to the profit and loss, and it is also on the full accrual. It's unusual from a profit and loss in the private sector in that it starts with our expenses, and then we subtract from our expenses program revenues, which are derived directly from those expenses, to come up with our net expenses before our general revenues. The town of Ducks is comprised mostly of general revenues, which are our taxes for property taxes, our municipal service district taxes, and other taxes. And we increased our net position by $343,326 to come to the net position of $25,377,674. The next exhibit is Exhibit 3. This is where we're coming more into our fund financial statements, and this is on the modified accrual basis, which means that it doesn't really show the long-term information like the full accrual does. It does show a little bit more of our fund balance being broken down between non-spendable, restricted, and unassigned. Our total fund balance is, which we have only one governmental fund, which is the general fund, and it's $9,944,027. And of that amount, our unassigned amount is $6,708,000, which represents 72% of our current year general fund expenditures, which I think I've talked to you in the past. You know, that is something that, you know, you want to increase, and the higher the better. The lowest that they've recommended that you have would be 8%, but because we're out here on the coast, we want to have more, and the council strives to have, their goal in the end is 75%. So, and last year it was 59%, so it definitely increased over the past year. So at the bottom of this statement, we have a reconciliation that takes you back to the full accrual. And what this reconciliation really does is just kind of show you the difference between the modified accrual and the full accrual. And the biggest differences are the capital assets are not shown on the balance sheet in the modified accrual, nor are our debt and our pension liabilities. And the reconciliation at the bottom ties back to Exhibit 1. The next statement is our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance on Exhibit 4. And this breaks down our revenues by type and our expenditures, which are broken down between our current expenditures, our debt service expenditures, and our capital outlay. And we increased our, we had excess of revenues over expenditures of $1,251,016. Exhibit 4 continues to the next page. So once again, we're trying to show the difference between the modified accrual and the full accrual, and it's the same items that I mentioned before, which is your capital outlay and your debt and pension information. The next statement is Exhibit 5, and this is the statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance budget to actual. So what this particular statement does is it takes a little bit further than the previous one, and it shows the budget in the original form that it was adopted, the final form that it was adopted, and then the actual amounts and the difference between the final budget and the actual amounts. And they do it this way because they would like the reader to be able to see how the town started off with their budget, and then they can quickly see what things they maybe had to change. At the bottom of this statement, we also have, as a part of our general fund, a capital reserve fund where we're accumulating funds to make our payments on our special obligation bonds for beach nourishment. And it's not a separate fund in and of itself in the exhibits. It is actually combined into the general fund, and it's shown down here at the bottom of the statements. And its total balance at the end of the year was $1,694,718, which when you add to the general fund balance of $8,249,309, you get the $9,044,27 that we had talked before about for the fund balance. So after the exhibits comes the notes. The notes definitely will give you more detail on all the information that's shown in the exhibits. It starts off more with our significant accounting policies, which kind of goes down and gives you an outline of what all our policies are. And then it starts giving more detailed notes on like our fixed assets, our pension, and our debt, and other things. So, if you have questions for a number, you can probably find more detail into the notes. So after the notes is our required supplementary information, which is information on the local government employees retirement system and the law enforcement special separation allowance. And this is just required information that is supposed to be in the statements. We don't necessarily audit these statements, but this required information, but we do make inquiries, and we believe that it's complete and whole. So after the RSI, which is required information, we have our supplementary statements and schedules, which start on page 48 and go through 54. These are the statements that y'all are probably more used to seeing throughout the year. We have our general fund, which is our budget to actual, and it shows the prior year amounts. We have our capital reserve fund, the same. And at the back, we have our analysis of property taxes and receivable on the levy. And once again, the town of Duck has a very high collection rate on their property taxes of 99.99%. So you have very good taxpayers. We've also included in your information our communication letter, which just kind of briefly points out in a more concise manner the things that we kind of did during the audit. We had no new accounting policies this year that were implemented. We had the same ones that we've had before, and no changes were really made. We do have significant accounting estimates in our statements, and of those is our pension liabilities, but they're all based on actuarial studies. And, once again, it's a study and it's an estimate, but, we feel like, they're all reasonable, and that the people who are doing our studies are the ones who are doing the bulk of the studies in the state. And then, we had no problems with management during our audit, and we had no disagreements with management. And there were no consultations with outside independent accountants other than us. And I think I mentioned before, the required supplementary information on the pension is not audited, but we did look at it and made inquiries in it. So that's my presentation, and if anybody has any questions, if I don't know the answer, I'll get back with you, but I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
Lisa, more of a procedural question, but a couple years ago, they implemented a yellow book, which for these another accounting firm has to input. What part do they input to the audit?
Well, for this year, you were not subject to the yellow book because your grant revenues were below 100,000. So last year you were, but this year you weren't. And next year you probably will, because you actually have received a grant that we got the money, but we hadn't spent the money, and the yellow book is based on when you spend it, not when you get it. So, because that would be what I'd have to look at, is your expenditures and make sure that they follow the grant guidelines. So we did have an amount that will make us move up into that yellow book next year. So you kind of go back and forth.
Thank you.
Any indication we're okay on retirement accrual?
Well, the retirement did increase this year by, I think, $235,000. So, you know, it seems like, and what that means is that the state of North Carolina accumulates funds to be able to pay these retirements, assuming everybody retires on the same day. And when, or thereabouts. And what they've said is that if they couldn't pay it, we have to come up with the difference, and that's what's reflected in our statements. And so it did increase over the previous year, and it probably is going to have everything to do with their investments at the end of the year, and it's all based on like the year before. So luckily, the markets have been doing good for the past several years, and so hopefully it won't be a problem for.
So would that number relate to what typically is known as the unfunded liability?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that's what's showing, like on we pick up as, I think we have 1,300,000 for the ledgers and 664,000. And I'll show you, that's on page 14, under the liabilities. Under our long-term liabilities, we have our net pension liability, which is ledgers, which is 1,342,000. And then we have a pension liability for the LEO, which is for the law enforcement special separation allowance, which is 664,000. So that is considered our portion of the unfunded pension at the state level.
Do we know how much the whole pension at the state level is unfunded?
Well, I didn't, it's always a couple of years back, and I didn't see it. You know, North Carolina in the past has been in the top 10 of funding.
That's good.
So, and it really, I mean, honestly has to do with the market and
Sure.
how the market performs.
Sure.
So, you know, but they're not spending the money. How's that? I think they strive to keep it as funded as possible.
Thank you.
I just have one question, since we're digging into it a little bit. On page 19, when you were talking about the bottom of that statement showing the MSD Municipal Service District.
The capital reserve fund, yes.
Right. Can you point to that figure again on the bottom for me, please?
Okay, well, so it's hard to kind of, it doesn't say the total figure, but if you take the 8,249,309 and subtract it from the 994,027, you get the 1,694,719.
Okay.
And I don't know why they don't like have another line, but they don't. So,
I couldn't find that number when
yeah,
you were telling me.
and it's
Okay.
just all those things added together makes that number. And that amount is restricted. And like if you go over and look on Exhibit 1 at the top under our assets, you'll see restricted cash and cash equivalents. And so there it is again. That's your capital reserve. And it's also shown under the net position under our restricted. So we keep.
Got it.
What happens is throughout the year, as we collect the MSD taxes, they're moved into that fund. And then when we, and part of the sales tax as well. And then when we need to make payments, we transfer it back to the general fund. And it's really just an accumulation fund, but it helps you keep that restricted amount, showing.
Showing, right. Thank you so much for
Okay.
walking me through
Yeah,
that.
sorry about that number.
Are there any other questions for Lisa?
All right, well,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Probably appropriate to just do a motion to accept the audit as presented.
All right.
I make a motion, we accept the audit as presented.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Item number 6, the consent agenda. It contains minutes from the October 6, 2021 regular meeting, and approve the master service agreement with VC3 Inc., defining its business relationship with the town, authorize the town manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the town, allowing the town to proceed with converting to a VoIP phone system. I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Item number 7, old business. Items deferred from previous meetings, none at this time. Item number 8, new business. Discussion, consideration, the appointment of council members to serve on and as the following. I'd like to kind of jump around here a little bit. Starting with the Dare County Tourism Board, Mayor Pro Temp Monica Thibodeau is our representative, and she's currently serving a 4-year term. So if there's no objection to having her continue to be our lead person, and I'm not sure the county will be asking us for any submission this year. So
Generally, my recollection is they don't, I mean, you know, so
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
generally they don't ask for that if the term is still ongoing.
Right. So if there's no objection from council and no objection from Monica,
No, I'm enjoying serving on it again. So, yes, thank you for that. I'd like to continue.
So the minutes will just reflect a consensus that Monica continue in that position.
so we need a motion.
You know, if you want, the motion would be appropriate.
I'm going to make a motion then that Monica Thibodeau remain on the Dare County Tourism Board representative for the town of Dutton. Any discussion on that on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Monica, thank you. I'd like to also now jump to the Planning Board. Sandy Whitman has been our liaison. Sandy has expressed an interest to remain. Is anyone else interested in that?
Thank you. No.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Sandy?
Thank you.
You get to have all those extra meetings. The check signatory, normally it's been the mayor and the mayor pro temp for years. Generally, the mayor meets with the town manager once a week, and checks are signed at that time. I'd like to make a motion that the mayor and the mayor pro temp be the representatives from the council to continue to sign the checks, along with the representative from the town. So I'd like to make that motion.
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The Government Access Channel was represented by Nancy. Interest in serving on that? It's pretty interesting. They're the ones that do all the audio visual and the government channel. Rob, as an example, was also on the Transportation Committee, so I don't know if, Tony, if you'd be interested in that?
I don't know what it is. Give me a little synopsis.
The Government Access Channel
Yeah.
Committee? That is, it's a nice opportunity to meet other folks from the county, because it does have a representative like the Visitors Bureau of not only all the towns, but also the entities. So you get some from the Coastal Studies Institute, also the Dare County Board of Education, and the College of the Albemarle. So you really do get you get to really
Yeah,
interact.
no,
with
that's
them.
fine. I'd be happy to do that.
And it's once a month, I think, and usually it's interesting.
Yeah.
You get a lot of good public information.
Yeah,
That's
and they
good.
give out grants to the towns and to the other entities. I served on for 2 years. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed
So,
it, my time
I'll
on
make the
that.
nomination that Tony be on the Government Access Channel Committee. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you.
And I would like to make the motion at this point in time that unless Rob has an issue with it, that we appoint Rob back as the Transportation Advisory Committee representative. I'll make that motion.
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Robert, are we okay with all that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Item number B, discussion consideration of 2022 council meeting date schedule. Town Manager Drew.
You have that in your packet, so it's the first Wednesday of every month, 6 o'clock. And also the mid-month, we're put a hold on for the third Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
Just for edification, Tony, what we do is we schedule the mid-months and then make that decision is based upon whether or not we need it. Around budget time, we have quite a few of them. Probably 6 of the 12 are scheduled.
Yeah, I looked at the schedule, and unfortunately, I have a couple of conflicts, mainly due to scheduling from a year in advance. One I'm trying to change. I'm hoping I can, and the others I don't think I can. But I'm looking pretty good for the most part.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all by charter, the first and the third.
The 6 o'clock was a recent, not too recent change, which, but it's nice so we can get started earlier and then
Yeah, that
not
is
have to
good.
go deep into the night as much as we have.
Are we going to need a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
I make a motion, we approve the schedule as presented.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 4-0. Discussion consideration of full year 2022-23 budget calendar. Drew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In front of you, you have the draft budget calendar. We ask the council adopt the budget schedule every year. You'll see that we are into it a little bit already, and I think we're pretty much on schedule, meeting deadline so far. The question mark I had here was in January at some point to have a strategic planning session with the council. This is not the full revisioning or anything like that. That's something we'll have to budget for in fiscal 23 because that involves a consultant and outside assistance. But this is a time for the council to give strategic direction in terms of what do you want to accomplish in the coming year. That helps inform the budget process as staff begins to work on a draft. So the question is, do you want to do that at mid-month in January, or would you prefer a different day and time?
I would suggest a mid-month, only from the standpoint of that's always a working session. And even though it starts at 1, I'm sure that we'd probably wrap that up in a couple hours. So I would suggest that we combine that with a mid-month.
Does that work for your
It
schedule?
works for me.
Okay.
That works well, yeah.
Yeah, as many people that could be here would be good, so that'll be good, that's fine with me.
So with that change, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor as amended with that one date? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Item number D, discussion consideration establishing a town property advisory committee.
Mr.
Joe
Hurd. Mr. Hurd.
Thank you once again. Just a touch of background for the council has some of this information in the staff report, the memorandum we attached. But for those in attendance who don't have that privilege, just to give a little bit of background and history. So all the way back in 2004, as the town of Duck acquired the property that's now the town park, and later the property where we're sitting tonight, that houses the town hall and meeting hall. The council chose to establish it had a big long name at that time, but a citizen advisory committee to really work with a selected consultant and an engineering planning firm to develop these properties. You know, what did this community want to see out of these properties? You had made a significant investment. and you wanted to make sure that it was meeting the needs of the community. That committee was established in January 2004, and their work continued a little bit on and off over the years. There were years they only met every 6 months. There were years they met every month as they had a significant project that was winding down. They did things, as I talked about some of the elements, these public buildings, this campus, the recreational amenities. They were involved with the boardwalk project and all the various phases of that. The final thing that committee conducted before it was, they were never phased out. It's not, it's technically not terminated or anything like that, but was working on use policies for all of our public facilities. What is appropriate activity and, guidelines and rules for use of our park, for use of the boardwalk, things like that. So again, their function ceased in 2014, and since then, staff has really taken on that role of operating the things that group was instrumental in helping develop. So at this point, though, we're seeing some things come up on a staff level where we think it would be nice to have some guidance from the community as we take a look at some other facets of this property and our public facilities, and we would really like to get some input. And so we are proposing to the council that you consider the establishment of a town property advisory committee that would work in concert with staff. There may be times when they would be working with a consultant regarding a particular project or something like that. Obviously, all of the final decisions would still rest with the council as far as funding improvements or decisions on what you would like to proceed with. But the hope is that this committee could really help provide that input that would also be helpful to you as an elected body. So with that in mind, we have a proposal laid out. You have a draft resolution that gives you some parameters. We're proposing consideration of a 7-member committee. You'll note that there are some elements we would really think it might be valuable to be a part of this committee. Very similar to what we did with the Land Use Advisory Committee, where we very purposefully chose representatives from different sectors of our community: business, residential, planning board. And in this case, we're also asking the council to consider whether you would like to have a council liaison, an individual who would be there and be able to participate in those discussions and report back to the council on what's occurring at that committee level if you decide to do this. So with that in mind, I'd be glad to get into as much detail as you would like on it, but you have a proposal before you, and they're really, I'll say, 2.5 questions we're asking for your consideration of tonight. First of all, do you want to establish a town property advisory committee? Secondly, if you do you want to appoint a town council liaison to that committee? And then the half question is really seeking your advice if there is a particular way out of the ordinary that you would like us to solicit for members. You would presumably be looking to get people, filling out applications to be considered for appointment to this committee if you decide to go ahead with it. If you have any particular thoughts on how you would like to go about that, we would appreciate those as well. Mayor, that's my presentation, but again, be glad to answer any questions or provide clarification as needed.
Joe, why wouldn't you have a representative from your team? I mean, it seems to me we'd be talking about the assets of the town, and it seems to me that that knowledge on that council would be, on that advisory board would be valuable.
Staff will be a part of these conversations. In other words, there will be staff that works with the committee, but the committee itself, we did not figure it was appropriate for a staff member to be a voting member of a committee made up of citizens or other representatives. So staff will be a part of those conversations. We will provide information, support this group, and if they need information, things like that. So we'll be a part of this. They will be advising us in effect as well. So we didn't, as part of having a member of our team on it, we did not make that recommendation for those reasons.
Well, I think that it's a good idea. I like the concept of, having the committee, I think. And I like the kind of, whatever you want to call it, demographics of the people that you think should be represented on the committee. But I think it would be helpful if, I would assume they would select a chairman or something who would kind of coordinate, or do you see your team doing that?
No, there would be we would ask that they elect a chair as part of this.
Yeah.
To help their meetings. They would run their own meetings. Again, we would be there to serve as staff, advising them in their role. But we would see that as part of the, situation.
I mean, I think if there was a staff member that was there to help support them, and the chairman came and reported to us, I'm not sure we need a council member there all of the time as a liaison. I don't know, just my thinking.
Is it specific to just to the public property? Is that what we're talking about here? I mean, what they'd be focusing on would be just the ideas and development of future policies and things we might implement just on the public property?
Correct. Yeah, so it would be looking at projects or policies would be probably the two focal points. They may advise regarding types of, we have one of the items I cited in here had to do with recreation equipment. We're over the next few years looking at the possibility of investing more in that. We will ultimately need to replace the equipment we have at some point. It's holding up very well for what it's worth right now. But we may be able to have an opportunity to expand what we're offering. And while there are some ideas out there on the staff's point, we'd really like that input on what the community, what do you see that we need? What are the, what's missing?
I think that's a great idea.
How can we grow that to really offer our citizens and visitors a better experience even?
Yeah, there's some ideas that are just great ideas, like the rain garden and that kind of thing, but I know that takes a lot of staff time, and that's something nobody can argue with some of these great things, the assets we've added to, but having a group of advisors, I think, does make sense, and I could go either way on that. The meetings, I would assume, would be public, so anybody could sit in to listen. Is that, will they be publicized, or is it more just not really?
I mean, it is a committee of appointed members by the council, so we could certainly, those are public meetings, so, with that in mind, anyone could come. The committee itself would run the meetings, so they would have they would determine when they have public comment, how they seek that. It's a committee, this could be a committee that ends up using other tools like surveys or things like that to really get a broader perspective of the community. Yeah. So, there's a lot of different ways they can go about that, but that's something that they can decide how to best get the information that they want.
Do you see this as being just facilities related, or do you see it like programs, offerings, that sort of thing as well?
It is set up to potentially include programming as well.
Okay.
I guess
And that's why with the staff, with the answer to that question related to staff, There may be different people from the town staff involved at different points. You know, we may have someone from the planning side involved in site-type improvements. Christian Legner, Betsy Trimble might be the best staff members to talk about programming and but even some of the facilities. They're very heavily involved in that, and that really ties into the activities. So there, you know, that's why I answered the way I did. That staff will be involved. There may be different staff at different times.
I mean, I like the idea, but I guess my concern, Joe, is guidance, rules, you know, parameters. I mean, I'd rather see this advisory responding to, we'd like to do something recreational in the town in the way for children. You know, I'd like to see it more focused, because I think right now it's going to be unfocused. You're going to get 7 people in there. You're going to get ideas all over the place, which may or may not implementable. I think I see a lack of direction and guidance coming from this committee. That's why I'm asking about staff involvement. I mean, just a group meeting, you know, once a couple times a month or whatever. I mean, how do you rein them in, and how do you make it useful? I just think that they could react better to guidance on specific items rather than just going off and blue skying it. I guess that's my concern.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think some focus would be helpful, because, I mean, you could picture, like you said, 7 people in the room, and they'll say, well, you know, what would really help us is let's build a walkway over the road or something, you know. I mean, not that that's necessarily a bad idea, it's just not going to happen, you know. So, I mean, I think if we could get a good focus in on it in terms of what their, you know, what their responsibilities will be. I mean, I don't want to stifle creativity, but I think focus is helpful. Yeah, but I like the idea. I think it's a good way for people to get input into what we're doing, and I'm sure they'll have lots of good ideas, but keeping them focused is good.
Okay. If that seems to be the desire of the council, then, you know, it's something that we can you know, we've set this up. It was fairly simplistic in the draft with the resolution, the way it was set up. You know, it did set that they have to elect a chair, establish a meeting time, things like that. Sets some general parameters on the types of things they would look at, but it doesn't really get into that, how they function as a group. If you would like, we'd be glad to go back, maybe even talk to some other communities who've had successful, similar groups that are successful for them, and maybe put together some draft information about, you know, that type of thing, about how they would function, how they would operate, and come back to you with some thoughts on that. Does that sound like a direction you'd like us to go?
It's a really great idea, too, to just drop more people in, or ideas. And the advisory council group that we had before worked very well, and there were a lot of decisions that had to be made.
It's a lot different then.
Yeah, and so probably as things are coming up is where they would focus, but it's nice to kind of lay it out a little more clearly.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Joe?
With that, I think that resolves that one for this evening. And again, we'll come back, you know, probably within just say a couple months, you know, but, you know, February-ish might be a target date for us as far as to revisit this. Okay.
And you could always start with a pilot program and give a group of people one project. And
Yeah, should we be talking it up in the community a little bit here and just trying to get people to think about wanting to apply to it?
well,
We'd be glad to do that at whatever level you would like at this point.
I'm just thinking as us as a community, you know, we could.
might be a little premature, but I don't know.
Okay. What kind of way? I'm just thinking might as well, you know, get the word out a little bit about it, but because it does seem like something we want to do, but either way, we'll kind of let it develop.
Joe, if you want to stay there, we're going to go to item number E, discussion consideration of authorizing a public hearing on Ordinance 21-05, establishing allowances for indoor entertainment facilities in the Village Commercial VC zoning district.
Okay.
I guess that's yours.
Thank you again. So what you have before you this evening is a simple question of whether or not you want to authorize a public hearing for your meeting in January, and January 5th to be exact. What we have is a proposal from a local business property owner to expand the permitted uses that are allowed in our village commercial district. So think Duck Village, but that also does include a few other properties up there in the area Village Table Tavern is also zoned VC. But this proposal is a text amendment. So what this is doing is proposing to change the rules, change the standards of the town that we have for uses in those districts. So what's being proposed is to add an indoor entertainment facilities as a permitted use in that district. The applicants have submitted a fairly detailed proposal. You'll see in there they do have a definition of indoor entertainment. That's a very important component of their request. There was a lot of conversation at the planning board concerning which uses might be more appropriate than others to potentially include within the village area. So that has been fleshed out to a great degree by the planning board as far as expressing their opinions, and the applicant did agree and has changed their proposal to be consistent with the planning board's recommendations in that regard. So there would be definitions that are added. There would also be within that particular zoning district, the use added as a permitted use. And finally, the one other aspect of this that needed further definition had to do with the parking requirements for that type of use. So in this case, the applicant has proposed to amend those requirements. Again, there was a good deal of discussion about that at the planning board meeting, and they reached, I'll call it a compromise resolution that all the parties seem to be happy with, as far as moving forward with a proposal of 1 space per 200 square feet of gross floor area. That is consistent with the town standards for retail use. It's also kind of a middle of the pack proposal. If you look nationally at standards that different communities have for this type of use, that's right in the wheelhouse, kind of right in the middle there. So with that in mind, the planning board, after, again, a lot of thought and discussion on this, at their meeting on November 10th, voted 3-2 to recommend approval of this proposed use. So it was a split vote. There were, in your staff report, you have some information on the thoughts expressed by some of the different members on why they voted like they did. But you do have a recommendation to move forward with approval of this, and at this time, we're simply asking the council to consider authorizing a public hearing at your January regular meeting.
Joe, how much public input did you get in the planning board?
There was no one in attendance at the meeting. The information, we had the applicants there. There were a number of people who expressed interest in the proposal prior to the meeting, but did not show to the meeting. They were given information about the proposal and opted not to attend and express their opinions, either in writing or in attendance at the meeting.
Well, I guess my concern is this is a pretty major change for the town of Duck to allow all these. And it seems to me we haven't had enough time to get public input into how they feel about adding this type of entertainment to the town of Duck. I really think that's a big issue, and to rush it to public hearing, I think may be a mistake. And I know that's where we get the public, to come back and comment, but at the same time, I'm not sure that there's a full understanding out there of what we're trying to do. And I don't know how we can better communicate that to the public, but I think we need more input. I mean, this becomes another, split trash can type pickup thing, I think. I think we're moving too fast and on something like this. That's my opinion.
I think there is a lot of concern. I picked up a little bit. And then I think there's also people who aren't really sure they understand what it is. You know, it's like, oh, we're going to have go-karts zipping around out there and so on. So everybody's got an image in their mind. But the thing that concerns me is, one, that we would be making a change to what we allow. You know, it would become the new standard or guideline, if you will. So someone could do it again, as you mentioned, in the other area down near Village Table and Tavern, and I don't know what that would involve. But the other thing that concerned me a little was, you know, we're kind of, things that happen in Duck are typically family-oriented. Parents come in with their kids and they do things, and they, you know, they go to concerts, and, you know, they walk around and they shop. I'm just a little concerned that this could become a place where unaccompanied teenagers go and just kind of hang out. Now, I'm not necessarily against that, but it's pretty different than what we've got and have had here. It's all been family-oriented rather than you kids just go to town and do your thing, you know. I'm just a little bit worried about that. And also the fact that we would be opening the door to something we've never done before, you know.
If we had the public hearing scheduled, would we have to vote on it that night, or could we just get the public input that night?
As long as you have the public hearing, you can then either take action or you can defer the action, as long as you've had the public hearing.
Typically, we do
Typically, you
vote
go
that
ahead and
night.
act.
But I was just suggesting that if you put it on the calendar, for example, and said, we are going to have an opportunity to talk about this, that's the way we're going to get the public input, in my mind, you know, sort of but also, but then if we knew we maybe had time to, you know, digest it and hear about anything, then we would, I don't know, maybe that's, isn't practical, because then you'd have to, if you did have any changes you'd want to make, then you would have to start over again. So we've done that before, but my point is that I think there are a lot of misunderstandings perhaps about exactly what this is, and so maybe before we do a public hearing, we could have a presentation about it, and the public could attend the presentation so that everybody understood what it was, not just the planning board.
Background question, does the planning board usually have more unanimous decisions than split decisions?
Yes.
This subject went back and forth for over an hour at the planning board meeting.
I always get concerned when you have a 3-2 vote.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been down that path before, which means obviously there's still a lot of opposition to it, you know, with respect to, for some good reasons, probably. You know, not that that may be a good thing, but moving forward with it, I mean, I just think we need more input. I mean, as I say, this is a significant change
Well,
for the town.
how do we get the input if we're not explaining exactly what we're looking for the input for? I think if you're looking for input from the public, then maybe we could table this for 1 month and have a point on the meeting where we're asking for input from the public. That's not a public hearing, because I think it needs to be explained and understood. And just to your point, Tony, about kids, you know, wandering around Duck, you know, they're getting ice cream. They're wandering around the town. They're having fun on the boardwalk. So I don't know if that's super different from. Again, I really don't know, but this, to me, is just sort of an indoor gatherings place where, you know, they can just do whatever the games are, but they're indoor, so it's not sort of like you're, you know, I mean, it seems like it's just a recreational thing that does sort of speak to families. It's not, I'm sure there'd be time limits and stuff on it, but again, you're just hearing the conversation about exactly what, so people can understand it all, rather than just wondering, gee, what is this? You know.
And I'm sure there's also going to be a parking concern, even though I know they address parking, but that type of thing is going to bring in more outsiders, you know, than just people from Duck. I mean, I think somehow maybe this should go back to the planning board for a greater definition, and the planning board should somehow try and solicit more public input, I think, before it comes to this body, for us to make a decision. I don't know, that's my feeling. I mean, I think
You
that
could
the
certainly
fact-
send it back to the planning board through action today or in the future with some direction about what you would like the board to look at before it comes back to you.
Would it be appropriate to do some sort of a survey, similar to what we did with trash? I mean, we're pretty effective in getting information back.
Or some kind of a joint meeting with the planning board that we could delve into this ourselves. I mean, you're looking for public input, but again, just the definition of what we're looking for, to me, is we need to be able to present to the public what we're asking for their opinion on. Would it be simply what we have before us? Is that sufficient?
I mean, my take is it should go back to the planning board. I think we should consider some sort of a survey of the public. If we can't get them to a meeting, we ought to be perhaps surveying them, and let's get their feelings about this, because this does start to represent a significant change for Duck, I think. And the Duck, we know it, personally.
And who would be the target audience for the survey?
Anybody who
Are
wants to
you looking
respond?
at general?
Property owners, mostly, probably. But usually, we ask people where, where their association is with Duck. I mean, you could do that so you know whether they're a resident, non-resident property owner, or visitor.
It would be good to get a fair number of resident property owners, because, they're going to live with it. But, yeah. I mean, I think they were relatively specific in what they said they were going to allow in it. So Monica, I don't think we'll get much more from the planning board than we've got, and we're going to get a 3-2, split. So I think the public thing will be really helpful to us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think, and I think it should be, if we do send a survey out asking, I think it takes care of two things. It explains and gets it on the radar.
Right.
Because a lot of people are just not, they're busy and they're not paying attention. It also just lays it out in a hopefully very neutral fashion, that it's not sensationalized or, skewed one way or another.
Yeah.
So it try to make it very factual and just get a pulse on what people are thinking and knowing which, where they're coming from, if they're a visitor, if they're a resident, business owner. I mean, maybe would it be appropriate to put it on the website and ask people to go on the website and look at it?
Joe, wasn't there more items that were on their original list that were not permitted?
Yeah, what happened with this is the original proposal included, if you're looking at the definition on the first page of the staff report, for the definition of indoor entertainment, basically all of the uses that are included in the first two sentences were originally included in the proposal as being the permitted uses. That is what, for what it's worth, that is what the town of Nags Head allows. And that the applicants used that as part of the basis for their proposal, that this was another community that had looked at this thoroughly and they had decided to allow all of those uses. The board did take, as Councilman Whitman talked about earlier, did take a great deal of time going through this in detail, literally going through each proposed use and saying, we think this is more appropriate in Duck. We don't think, this one could have more negative impacts. We don't think that's appropriate. So what they ended up doing was breaking them up into the first sentence that outlines what is allowed, but they, rather than just getting rid of the other things, they also kept a second sentence that says these are specifically not allowed, to clarify in their definition that these are types of uses. It's not intended to be expanded to include these other types of uses. So that's what one of the things the board did in their consideration.
So they're trying to be as definitive as possible.
Yeah, I think that they saw value in doing that because, again, I'm here, I'm a part of that conversation, so going forward, I know what their wishes are, what your wishes ultimately are, should you adopt this. But 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, if there's someone else standing here making those interpretations and decisions, they may not have that background. And that's why the board felt it would be important to include things that they specifically didn't want in addition to the things that they felt were appropriate.
Are you having a meeting in December?
The planning board presently does not have any items for their agenda. So at this point, unless there is something that the council would like them to consider, I usually talk with the chair the day after this meeting, if we don't have anything, to ask him if he wants to meet or not. So that's where we're at right now. I've not had that conversation with him yet, but if the council, if you give them some business to do, then we'll have a meeting.
Joe, who's the driving force behind it? Is it the landlord of those spaces?
You have a property, in this case, these are property owners of in this case, of Scarborough Lane Shops. So it's the business, the owners, and we're fairly recent, but long-time property and business owners here in Duck. So have a very good gauge of, activities in Duck and some thoughts about what may be needed or not, and they've opted to propose this. They can explain, obviously during the public hearing, they would explain the rationale for why they've made this proposal to you. So you'll have an opportunity to hear directly from them.
Would they be proposing it for themselves to operate or proposing it so they could bring tenants in to operate?
It doesn't really, I don't mean to say it doesn't really matter.
I know it doesn't matter, I'm just curious.
I don't know the answer to that.
I'm just curious, I know it doesn't matter, I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
If you were to survey, when could you have results? The 30-day process?
Well, I think the challenge you have now is you got the holiday season, and there's so much, people are doing this or that or the other, and they're out of town and in town, and it's a difficult time to conduct a survey and have substantial results to report at the end of it if we're looking at this for the January meeting. We can certainly get something out quickly and have at least a few weeks prior to that.
But at the same time, it's very difficult to council to have a meeting in early January for the same reason. We're not going to have any public input, and probably not at the January meeting. So there'll be really nothing substantial for us to base anything on, even though it's a public hearing. You're coming right off the holidays.
Right. Well, we could maybe do a survey and have the public hearing, but with the idea that we wouldn't vote on it at that time. How does everyone feel about that? Not voting and just getting the public comment?
I just don't think we're going to get participation on a public hearing on this, because I don't think people are going to be attuned to it, and therefore we're going to do the public hearing, and then after the fact, how'd that happen? And I just don't think that between now and the first meeting in January, we're going to have any more better knowledge unless, in fact, we solicit it to make a decision or to even move forward.
So you're suggesting that we do get some data, get some survey information, and then postpone the public hearing? Is that what you're suggesting?
I am. I mean, you can do the public hearing, but, we're not going to get any participation. What's going to draw people here? Because there's, we put an agenda out, on a Friday for people to be there on a Wednesday, and,
I just lost track a little bit. Is one of our objectives tonight to decide whether we want to have a public hearing or not?
Technically, that's the only objective.
That's the only objective. Okay, got it.
Well,
Now
so-
I'm there again. Now I'm back, now I'm back. Yeah.
So whether and when.
Yeah.
So you could tonight opt to set your public hearing for your meeting in February if you think time is a factor in this decision. So you can push it off till.
Could we say something like, you know, we want to delay any decision at all on the public hearing, subject to gathering more information from the community through a survey or something?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, you can opt to not set a public hearing, but ultimately, to get public comment here, you're going to want to have a public hearing to do that. That way, the full presentation is made to the public. The applicant has a chance to make their appeal to you all too during that public hearing.
Another option is you can have the, have the staff do the survey and present that to the planning board for them to further consider, and then have it then brought back to you, and then you schedule the
There you
public
go.
hearing. That way, you know, the planning board are the, you know, they are there because they are the experts
Right.
Yeah.
in the planning, and that's why you have them as an advisory board to you.
I like that idea.
I do too.
I know they have done a lot of work on this already. I don't object to them getting involved again and maybe getting clarity from the public, but, I mean, the planning board has, in a way, done their job, you know, by moving it to us with their recommendations. I don't know if the public, I think the public hearing, the public comment part is what the council, you know, not to get too deep into this, but that's what we do. I mean, the planning board has refined the applicant's request to what they think, you know, they've come up with that, and unless I'm hearing just because it was a split vote, you don't feel like they finished their job or don't agree with what they've done, but they've already done their work, so it seems as though it's now time for the council to listen to the public on this, because
Well, a concern on a 3-2 vote is that two people definitely were in opposition on this. And if it came to us 5-0, might change a few minds, but when it comes 3-2, that means the debate wasn't really finalized. Obviously, two people, you know, withdrew from that approval.
This isn't the first time we've sent stuff back to the planning board to look at either, to relook at.
right. But we are asking them, I guess, armed with, you know, public information. So,
There was no one at the public hearing.
yeah, I mean, no one, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I want to hear what the public has to say about it. I just was trying to figure out procedurally the best
Yeah.
way to go about it. I'm fine with setting the public hearing for February, the first week, meeting in February. It doesn't make sense to do it mid-month in January because, again, you're trying to get people to be involved, and an afternoon on a Wednesday, that could be difficult. So I would like to make a motion that we set the public hearing for February 2nd, and, well, that would be my motion, to set it for February 2nd.
Did that also include a survey?
Excuse me?
Would that also include a survey?
With the survey, having a survey.
That the planning board's going to look at their January meeting then?
Yeah, January meeting is,
The second Tuesday, or second Wednesday?
yeah, that the planning board could certainly discuss at their meeting as well.
So to set the public hearing for the February council meeting and send the application back to the planning board to consider the results of a survey to be conducted by the town staff.
Yes. Thank you.
That's good.
And I would just add that we certainly need a stronger presentation for the public hearing than,
Right.
you know, and I know this wasn't a public hearing tonight, but we need a stronger presentation as to what we were looking at.
Stronger in what way?
What are we changing, and what are the ramifications of that?
Okay.
I mean, Joe was giving us an overview and looking to send a public hearing, but there's no meat on the bones. That's what I say.
Yeah, and, you know, James stated that he thought it was inconsistent with our public use plan. So, I mean, I think we should understand that a little more.
So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 4-0. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Robert. Item number 10, items referred to and presentations from the town attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, congratulations to everybody. Secondly, we're working with staff and with your bond counsel towards a closing coming up for your special obligation bonds, and we're going to be providing a legal opinion about that process, as is customarily the case. So we're going to be working on that. We started today, and that closing, I think, is set for Tuesday week, I think.
I have an update.
Oh, you do? Okay. So anyway, that's what I've been working on the last day or two. But that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Item number 11, item number 10, I'm sorry, I referred to a presentation of the town manager. Drew?
Okay. All right, sorry about that. I'm going to keep it brief tonight. We're on a roll. Hopefully we can all get out of here at a reasonable time tonight. Let's see, I wanted to let you know that beginning this week, we'll get back to rolling with our seasonal house check program. So that's when we go out there. Each officer takes a minimum of 10 houses per day. They choose them completely at random. We track those numbers through a database and then create a pin map so they can see what areas we've covered heavily and what we need to get out there. But we do find quite a bit of homes that are wide open. To this year, again, we'll be sending letters to homeowners when we find open properties, letting them know what the circumstances of that was, same as we do for all businesses we find unsecure. So that'll continue right through until the spring. I'm really happy to report that $3,200 or $3,300 in community donations paid for 100% of the department to have PBA memberships this year. So huge thing. I don't know of another department that's been able to do that through both our PBA and T-shirt sales through the fire department generates that money, and then some generous donations from the public. So really great thing, and that's $3,300 the officers don't have to take out of their own pockets to fund those memberships. So great opportunity for us. Then last night and tonight, we finished up our annual TASER training. So it was, in some sense, it was kind of surreal because since COVID, we really haven't been able to get together a lot. So it's really the first time as a department we've been able to get together as a whole. So we had fun, had a little pizza, and then let John instruct us on TASER training. So it was good to get that out of the way, and it kind of wraps up our in-service training for the year as we finish out December. So just when we think we're done, we'll start it all over again in January. So only other thing I don't have a slide for, but happy that we met all of our mandates for Senate Bill 300, the Criminal Justice Reform Act. So a lot of work, but we've got new policies in place, new databases, things of that nature. So we're fully compliant. Happy with that. So that was a big accomplishment for us. Just briefly, typical November month for us. Traffic obviously is down quite a bit. I don't see anybody complaining about that. Crashes are down as well, but a lot of people say to us, well, you're not busy in the winter. Well, it's not that we're not busy. Our priorities completely shift. We have a lot of vacant homes, a lot of businesses that are closed for the season, so that becomes our priority. Officers are getting out of their cars a lot more in the fall and into the winter. LPR data, you can definitely see over Thanksgiving week 4 there, we spiked right up with traffic coming into town. I think we all saw that. It was a heavy week all across the beach for Thanksgiving, so glad those visitors came in to see us. Call volume is right where I'd like to see it. We're doing good. For some reason, we never seem to get back and duplicate 2019. Not sure what happened that year, but it was certainly the busiest year we've had in a long time. But I'm kind of glad when our call volume's not high. So it gives us time to do other things. And I'm going to kind of wrap up today. I could read 100 of these to you. It is the greatest experience that I have overseeing a police department that constantly gets compliments about their officers and not complaints. And I'm happy to say that the complaints we've gotten over the last year, every single one of them was found not to be substantiated. So I just want to read this to you because I think it really captures what our officers are about. It's about Officer Nakhan, but it could be insert any of our officers in here. But this person said he just wanted to tell us of an interaction he had with Officer Justin Nakhan yesterday in the shopping district by the water tower. I was sitting on a bench waiting for my wife to exit a jewelry store when Officer Nakhan walked by on foot patrol. And of course, I read this first part, and my first thought is, oh no, what happened? So I was happy at the next part. Officer Nakhan and I exchanged a few words, and then I noted how polite Officer Nakhan was being. It was refreshing to see an officer working Black Friday in a tourist town that interacted in such a pleasant manner while obviously maintaining a professional demeanor. When my mother and wife-in-law came out, Officer Nakhan addressed them respectfully and even joked with them. Please pass on to Officer Nakhan my appreciation and thank you for all that he and all the officers do to protect us on vacation. And he goes on to say that his family comes down here every month. What's really unique about this one, this was written by another police officer that works in Pennsylvania, and it's something we don't see. And he was so captured by his interaction with Officer Nakhan that he took the time when he got home to write me about it. So that was really powerful to me. It wasn't just your common complaint or common attaboy. So really proud of Officer Nakhan as much as all our staff. And like I say, we get these all the time, which is just very refreshing. And please permit me my humor. I know, Mr. Mayor, you're my final one. Freeze. On behalf of all our men and women at the police department, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays this year if we don't get to see you. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Chief. Well, it could have been worse. He could have said after all that taser training, he could have said duck.
All right, this is over here, which is different. Good evening, congratulations to all of you, and Councilman Shiano, we got the memo, the red. So tonight, I'm using green because it is the holiday season, and I know it's not the best color, but I think it'll go along with my presentation here in a minute. So we'll start with November calls for service and the work we did through November. So today we've had 526 calls, which is the highest amount we've recorded ever, actually. Not significant, but it's significant, and especially in a small little town. So definitely busier. But what you'll find is you can never predict it, because then when we look at November, we were actually more like 2019 than 2020. So again, we had that push towards the beginning of the year. This past month, it's definitely leveled off a little bit. And then when you look at the breakdown, again, I'll show it this way, and with the pie chart, you can see the differences, and the big difference is Rescue 11 calls, which is a good thing. We don't like to have to go out and help people that might need and be in need medically, so that's what it looks like. Yeah. What's interesting about the pie chart, what I'll say is, and this is why I like this visual, is it's a little bit of everything. So we're training for a little bit of everything. So this past month definitely was a little bit of everything. So activities, again, 19 incidents. Fire inspections are starting to ramp up. We did 11 in November. Training hours, 306 total. 171 of those were career. 135 of those were volunteer. So again, we helped. Big event for us was we did assist with the Vice 5K Turkey Trot. It was both police and fire without incident. Town manager, I couldn't tell when he texted me if he was just, you know, oh, have a good event, or please have a good event, but I kept him posted during it. And with that, I would like to say congratulations to Nancy with the work she did and the amount of money that she raised. So it is December 1st, and if I show you, oh, it did that ahead of me. December 7th, we know that date as Pearl Harbor, but also in 1736, though I gave you a teaser there, that's when Benjamin Franklin founded the Union Fire Company, the Bucket Brigade, if you will. It was the first formally organized all-volunteer fire company, so I thought it was interesting that it was December in me trying to figure out what I was going to talk to you about tonight. So one of his famous quotes is, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." Definitely with the fire service, I'd say for training and everything. He's got a couple other really good quotes you'll probably see in future presentations, but this one definitely is timely in that right now, as of November 29th, we have a burn ban in North Carolina. So I figured I would address a couple things because we do have a burn ban, and the most common question we're getting right now is fire pits. We get that most often, that and grills. So I'm going to take an opportunity to talk about those two things for town. So we'll start with, we have an ordinance. It's Fire Prevention Protection Ordinance, Chapter 96. We went through that about 18 months ago. And I tried to make this as simple as I could in red and green. The town does not allow any open burning or beach fires, period. Keep it simple. You don't have to read 3 pages in the ordinance. What is allowed? Contained fires, outdoor fireplaces, barbecue grills, and we do allow the use of a burn barrel for small amounts of vegetation. You can do that, but now you can't with the burn ban, okay? So to keep it simple, outdoor fireplaces and barbecue grills are still allowed right now. When the weather permits, you can do small contained burn barrels to get rid of some vegetation. You just can't do any open burning on the ground, nothing on the beach. That's about as simple as I can make it for you. So what does that mean for you all when it comes to fire pits and barbecue grills? Because again, we get this question all the time, and I wanted to clear it up, and I thought it was a good time. So these are just different examples. I actually spent a fair amount of time looking up different fire pits, and all of you can do this if you have access to the internet. If you're really interested in getting some type of fire pit, you can click on them and look at specifications. It's going to tell you way down at the bottom, just go to Lowe's or Home Depot or anywhere, whether it can go on a deck, it can go on a patio, it can go on the grass. It will tell you if it's safe to do those things. We don't always know when you call, is this one okay? You really need to look at the manufacturer's specifications to it. So these are my rules for fire safety regarding grills and fire pits. You can Google all over. The number one thing you're going to see is 10 feet away. No matter what it is, if it's hot, keep it 10 feet away from any structure or combustible material. 2, manufacturer's instructions, and I starred that 3 times. It's going to tell you, you can do this on the deck or you can't, okay? 3, we put in our ordinance, you have to be 16 years or older if you're going to monitor any type of burning. You want to have water or a fire extinguisher. If you do have a wood-burning fire pit, it's of course at least 10 feet away from anything that is combustible, and also you need a metal screen over it that's going to keep any embers from flying. You want to avoid decks, covered porches, railings, overhanging branches, and absolutely extinguish anything or turn off propane or whatever it is before leaving it. So I wanted to take advantage of that, and that's, again, this prevention will help us in not having to come out and extinguish something. So with that, I'll hit holiday safety real quickly. If you can, use decorations that are flame resistant or flame retardant. Keep decorations away from lit candles. When you leave, blow out candles. Turn off your lights, turn off decorations that have a heat source to them, and then with your trees, buy them fresh, buy them green, and then keep them watered. And again, keep away from heat sources, so I have to plug as the fire chief the holidays. So this is a very famous portrait, I'm not gonna read all this, that was done of Ben Franklin well after his time. And if you read the description, it's to the right, again, you can Google this. But I did highlight at the end, firefighting incorporated the ideals of citizenship, heroism, bravery, competition, and political and charitable activities. I think it's what town does. I think it's what Duck Fire's done for 40 years. And to that, Saturday night, we are going to have our annual awards banquet. A little different this year. We're just doing the fire department and their loved ones, if you will, one money, two COVID. But stay tuned for 40, because next year's our big 40th celebration, and we will do something different. But I just wanted to tie Ben Franklin into fire safety tonight. And with that, happy holidays, and I'll take any questions.
Very nice. Thank you.
Those two slides where you had about open fires and all that.
Yep.
Do you publicize that any place other than here tonight?
It's on our website, and that's something we'll update with the website and with the ordinance, but I can absolutely do a little
Yeah.
little teaser just with the burn ban, for
I mean,
sure.
those are good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice and succinct. And so the burn barrels are, I mean, that's just in Duck, or is that like, because with the burn ban, a burn barrel would be prohibited in any place?
So if you read it, and it's all over, that's why I really wanted to talk about it tonight. Technically, within 100 feet of your residence, it's still allowable to do things in other areas. It's always goes to the strictest is what your municipality or your area does. Mm-hmm. Even right now with the burn ban, if someone has a fire pit and we see it as a threat, we can ask them to extinguish it right now because we're in a burn ban. So to your question, a burn barrel right now in Duck and probably anywhere is, it's that 100 foot. It depends on what you have in town.
Yeah.
But we would, put it this way, if someone did it, we would come and say no.
Yeah. Good to know.
Donna, just a question on the fire inspections. What do you do on those, and how do you like pick what you're going to do and schedule and that?
Sure, this is a great coordinated effort with towns. So we're required, it's all part of the fire prevention code. Depending on the type of occupancy, you might have to do it annually, like for a restaurant.
Okay.
If you're a retail store, like an ice cream store, it might be every 3 years. So what we do is Sandy actually keeps a running list of all the occupancies, of all the commercial occupancies, and then we schedule them over the slower months.
And make
so.
sure they're in compliance
Yes.
with code and so on.
Yes, and it's a whole list of things that we have to check for. The other thing we do with those is update our pre-plans. So if I go to Joe's Ice Cream Shop, Joe has an ice cream shop, and we do the inspection, we're not just doing the fire code part of it, we're updating our pre-plan so we know where the power sources are, we know where to turn off water and all that kind of stuff, and where the nearest hydrant is, so it serves two purposes.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, he outdid me.
You know, but now in hindsight, I wish I had a welcome to Joe's Ice Cream sign. That little free publicity never heard. No. All right. All right. Well, thank you all again. Just start with some highlights on the permit activity we do every month. What you can see here is that after a little bit of a down month in October that brought us back to normal, picked right back up again in November. You can see 36% higher than last year. Overall, for the year, we're up 19%. And again, that's 19% building permits over a big year that was last year. So going all the way down to that bottom corner there, the permits are trending now right, 2% is, that's nothing, give or take. So they're trending right where they were last year. So we're seeing another very strong year for permit and development activity in Duck.
So building would include remodeling too, yes?
Correct. The building permit category would include that. Yeah. Additions as well, things like that. We do see a few clusters of activity this month as well. Looking at the northern end there, you can see a cluster of activity in and around, that's Soundsea Village area there at the northern one, and then Carolina Dunes, pretty significant cluster of activity there. Moving down to the southern part, and there we see Good amount of activity in the Bayberry Bluffs neighborhood, and after that, it's fairly spread out throughout the rest of the neighborhoods in the southern half of the town. We did have 3 new construction permits in this past month. 134 Skimmer Way, larger house, 6-bedroom. An interesting one there at 106 Ocean Bay Boulevard in the Sound Sea Village neighborhood. 3 bedrooms and an accessory dwelling unit, so being built with that as a feature. So total, it would be a 4-bedroom house, including the ADU. And finally, Bayberry Drive, that's in off of Bayberry Bluffs, Cook Drive, in that area, 5-bedroom house being proposed there at that property. Wanted to give you a couple updates. We've had an eventful week in terms of news. So the big news is the second bullet point. You may remember we started this comprehensive and land use plan all the way back in May of 2019 with the first meetings where we sat down with stakeholder groups. We finally received our certification from the North Carolina Coastal Resource Commission November 17th. So our plan is complete, approved at all levels, and we have a fresh copy. The only change is that we had to add that date to the cover sheet of the plan. Christian already has that up on the town's website, so that document is available to anybody who would like to look at that, get a better understanding of the goals of the town, as well as a lot of great information in that plan about kind of a lot of background information about us, you know, from an environmental standpoint, demographic standpoint, really a valuable document for us. And again, our goal with that plan is coming up with something that helps us as decision makers, that's staff, that's you as elected officials, that's appointed boards like the planning board, as it serves as a guide for those land use decisions, as well as other initiatives we might be involved with. We use it to support grants that we're looking for, as well as expenditures that we're looking to make as a town that really tells us what some of the priorities of this community are. So that was a big step that was a long time in coming. Secondly, you all had before you tonight, I'd set out a copy of Currituck Sound Marsh Restoration Plan. This is a document that's been about a year in the making. We are part of a group called the Currituck Sound Coalition, and the members of that, I'll talk real briefly about that in a little bit, but work together to publish this. A couple of different elements in this describes the resources available in and around the Currituck Sound, all of the partners who are involved in ensuring the health of the sound and its continuation as a functioning body of water that supports a lot of wildlife. It also outlines some of the challenges that we're facing as a region, as well as strategies to help address some of those issues. I mentioned Currituck Sound Coalition. On page 7 of the document, it lists fully all of those partners who've been involved in this effort, formed about, just say approximately about 3 years ago. Contains everybody from federal and state government agencies to a couple of us, local government, a lot of nonprofits affiliated with environmental issues, as well as some of the preserves and landowners of the larger areas, as well as some institutions like Coastal Studies Institute or Chowan University. They're doing studies in this area. So a significant document. I'd encourage you to read through it when you have the opportunity, learn a little bit about that, and feel free to ask me any questions. It's an ongoing effort. This plan does not end the effort. It's really a starting point for identifying our priorities moving forward. At your last meeting, the council awarded a contract regarding the duck trail improvements. We did hold a pre-construction meeting with the contractor on November 19th, They've informed us construction will begin in December. If you'll recall, this is replacing the current worn asphalt path between Blue Heron and Oyster Catcher Lanes up in the northern part of Duck, adjoining the Sanderling neighborhood. Likewise, the council awarded the contract to Millstone Marine for construction, replacement of 2 retaining walls, one south of Norbanks Drive, one between Wood Duck and Pintail Drives, adjoining the Carolina Dunes neighborhood. In this instance, the contractor does have some other work scheduled and will likely not begin any of this work until January. So just so you're aware of that schedule if you get asked in the community. One other thing I wanted to highlight, we do have an upcoming deadline for a hazard mitigation grant that we'll be pursuing. Deadline of December 10th. The intent of this grant would be to help the town fund the construction of nearshore sills along our property right outside here. So in Currituck Sound, we've seen quite a bit of erosion over the years of that marsh that helps protect our shoreline here and all of the public resource that this park is for our community. This would allow us to help protect that. And we are looking for, again, we have an opportunity here for a very significant grant that would help us fund that project in the upcoming year. Beach grass planting volunteers, the first planting occurred on November 11th. Our next opportunities coming up this Friday, weather permitting, will be at Christopher Drive for anyone who wants to put that on your calendar. But there will be obviously plenty of other opportunities. In the past years, we've had over 20 of these over the course of late fall, winter, even early spring months. So please, if you're interested, contact Sandy Cross in our office to be sure you're on our email list and are getting information about when those are coming up. I did want to just advise the council at your January meeting, we do plan to have some additional information concerning the temporary accommodations for businesses. We talked about this a few months back. The council did extend these provisions through the middle of January. We will have some additional information for you at the January meeting so you can make a decision on if you wish to extend those provisions. That would include things like tents, outdoor seating, allowing outdoor displays for other types of businesses, and how long you would like to extend those. So we should have some further information for you to consider at that meeting. And that ends my information for you this evening, but be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
How's the rain garden working out, Joe?
Obviously, it's been working very well. We still need to do the minor tweak to it with the grading that will bring even more water off of the edge of the road. But you may have noticed we've rarely had any issue with that now, with that standing water that we used to be on the sidewalk in the entrance area of the drive. So working very well. Plants seem to be thriving in that, and I guess I can also report that we do anticipate some point over the next couple of weeks receiving the rain garden wetlands sign. You had a presentation a few months back about that. Good. And Scouts of Troop 165 will be, once we get that in, we'll be installing the sign, and that'll educate people about what that is that they're looking at, but also giving them some information on how they can do that in their own yards if they happen to have issues, relating to that. So I did want to, certainly on that front, wanted to thank Christian Legner for her role in that and really helping work through the design and development and ordering of that sign as well.
Good.
Okay, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me while I popped up to take photos of everyone getting sworn in. If you would like a copy, please let me know, and I will send it to you. I'm going to be pretty brief with my first slides because we do want to talk about the logo this evening. So just to update you a little bit on our department, after talking with staff, I went back to the drawing board a little bit with the trash can signs to make sure we really highlighted the roll out and roll back schedule. About the middle of this month through the middle of January, once I get that design finalized, then we'll begin our full outreach with the rental companies and the property management companies and the rollback companies. This weekend on Saturday before Yuletide, we'll be having a sound cleanup if the winds don't push the water in. So if the water's too high or we have bad weather, we'll switch it to the next weekend. I think right now we have about 30 people signed up, so that's really exciting. Joe just mentioned the rain garden signage. That should be delivered to us before Christmas, and his son did a really excellent job designing it. So the company did have a graphic designer put some final touches on it, but the basic design is all Braden, so it's very exciting. We are working with Benny Baldwin on a Destination Dare video about the beach Vitex. So he'll probably be interviewing Sandy Cross sometime soon, and then using some footage and audio from the day that volunteers did the eradication project. And
The bad stuff, right?
yes, it's an invasive that grows on dunes. It grows really easily, and it seems really nice, but has a very shallow root system, so it doesn't capture sand like our native plants do. And it spreads really easily. So they did some eradication in Duck, and then they have spotted some more in Southern Shores. So we'll probably film Sandy with that patch before they eradicate that. And I am working on the winter celebration with Betsy, getting some plans together. Met with the mayor and the town manager today, and we'll be trying to finalize some more things over the next couple of weeks. In case anyone did not know, this weekend is Yuletide. And I know I've talked about it at the last few council meetings. We're very ready for it. We're very excited. It is a little bit different this year. We have some more activities, and we are trying to use a little bit more of the park, keeping in mind that some of the children that are coming are too young to be vaccinated for COVID or probably have not finished their COVID vaccine regimen yet. And Santa is also really does not want to take COVID back to the North Pole, so he will be outside as well. But we're excited. We will have treats, we will have hot chocolate, we will have a band, and we will have various games for the kids to play. Santa will also be reading a story, and we'll have the book projected up on the screen while he reads the story. We are again sponsored by Village Realty, and we'll be taking donations for the SPCA and the Beach Food Pantry, and the SPCA will be here with some adoptable dogs. I'll try not to take home more than 3. I promise. So moving on to the 20th logo, I did just want to clarify that we weren't looking for a rebranding here. We were really just looking for a logo for the 20th, much like we've done the other milestone years. So I did reach out to council with these 4 designs that were given to us by our graphic designer, and I got a bit of feedback. So I did want to show you a slightly altered 5th design based on some feedback that I got. So if you look at the top right, let's see if it comes up. So that's a very minor difference, but it's just the stacked 2002 and 2022 off to the right of that one. And I did that as not professionally designed, so we can send that back to the designer. But I did want to present them here tonight because I was hoping for feedback from the council and/or a consensus about what you would like to see for letterhead, possibly for embroidered items and items for sale. And I do, of course, have your feedback, but wanted to present it again, particularly for Mr. Schiano, and see if there was a consensus about which one you liked the best. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are you looking for opinions now?
I would love opinions, yes.
I like the one on the lower left.
Okay?
I think the other three, the 20 just wipes out the duck, whereby the lower one, we maintain our logo at the same time we recognize the 20 years. And I think it's, you know, keeping with our, basically with our logo. I just think the 20s just blow the whole thing away. They're just way too big.
As in we lose the sun?
Yeah.
Kind of? Okay.
So I like the 20 in the sun, my opinion.
I agree with that.
With the bottom left, okay.
I like Duck Brother. That's for sure.
Oh, no. I know.
Well, I was the one that suggested the fifth version.
Oh, yes.
Because I did like the
I can go
the
back and
looseness
forth
of
with
it. I'm absolutely fine with the lower left and going along with the group. It doesn't, I think it's there, it's fine.
Could you just, and I know you and I had a conversation about how that will reproduce in terms of embroidery and how it will reproduce on some of the
Right.
items that we sell.
So in terms of embroidery, our classic logo, obviously we already embroider that and it does pretty well. The 2002 and the 2022 in the ribbon part would be slightly harder. They would screen print better. Some of the other ones, while personally I like some of the ones too with the smaller kind of block lettering, I don't know that that's going to reproduce incredibly well. That really fine lettering with the founded 2002, that's going to be a little tougher for embroidery.
I agree with you. I think that was one of the things I was looking at, just to keep it as simple as possible. There's a lot going on with that one, but if you're just using it for paper or print or something, it would stand out. But to have actual, maybe it makes sense to get the, you know, a screen printer or somebody to give you an opinion on what can be produced.
And I think all of these could be screen printed pretty well. But I will say, again, those yellow, kind of the smaller numbers, I think are going to be a little bit tougher. As far as embroidery goes, I don't know how many items we would really get embroidered. There's a possibility, obviously, that council and staff might want something, but for merchandise, we would most likely be screen printing. Yeah.
So you like mine? There's less coloring.
I'm not supposed to give an opinion. So but I really, it's representing the work that you all have done for 20 years. So I want to make sure that it's appropriate. And I will say, this is no rush, but if we do decide tonight or soon, it gives us the ability to use that logo for some items for staff and the council, perhaps at the winter party.
Well, you've got 3 votes for the one on the lower left, so, I mean.
Okay, all right. And I will, when I go back to Access, I will have some further conversation with them about the screen printing options, and if we need to make some tiny tweaks, I will let you know to make sure it shows up well. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for giving us such nice
That's all I have.
choices.
Thank you, Christian.
Jessica.
Big decisions. It's hard to remember the old logo.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah,
Congratulations again to you all. I'm going to be showing you the monthly financial update for November. I'm going to be kind of brief. So for the monthly cash balances, our current funds on hand are $1,216,494 more than November of the previous fiscal year. This is just above 11.8 million. The town ended November with approximately $1,115,039 held in the general checking account. It's right around 9.4%. We usually like to keep about 10% in the general fund. The remaining funds are in the investment accounts. You've all received the monthly report from Drew. I did note in the report that November we received the September property tax collections in the amount of $325,896. The year-to-date property tax collections are $325,000 higher than at this point last year. As I mentioned, it's significantly more than last year because they were late getting the tax bills out because of reevaluation last year. The local government sales tax for August collections were received in November. They were 10.9% higher compared to the last fiscal year. Occupancy tax for September collections were $194,833 compared to just over $117,000 the year before. This increase, as I've mentioned before, is kind of a timing issue. We're correcting what months we are reporting this year, and it will balance out towards the end of the fiscal year. And then, as Joe said, permits are higher. They were 30.6% higher for November. Overall, the expenses are within budget. As we have noted previously, some expenditures such as the property and liability and workers' comp insurance, those payments were made earlier throughout the year. We do have the traffic study that was just completed, which brought some unforeseen professional services costs, which we will submit a budget amendment for in January. We also made the debt service payment to Truist Bank for the modification agreement that was finalized in September. The expenses were just over $76,000 more than the revenues that were collected in November. But as we've stated before, revenues, they can fluctuate month to month, as you can see. So, does anybody have any questions for me? No?
No.
All right.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
No problem.
Good evening. One of the benefits of having exceptionally well-qualified staff is that you don't have to hear me talk. So congratulations on allowing us to assemble really outstanding department directors and leaders in this organization. Thank you, staff, for your presentations. The only reason I'm going to get up and talk is I want to give you a brief update on beach nourishment. We have our permits. So everyone do this. We have our permits. We are going to the LGC on the 7th of this month. We don't anticipate any issues there. We'll get approval. Mr. Hobbs mentioned that he's working on his attorney's opinion for a closing, which is set for the 14th of December. So we're moving along well. I'd hoped to have the rates from the Carters. Andrew thought he was going to get those from PNC before we came to the meeting tonight, but I don't have them. As soon as I get them, I'll let you know what those are. They're going to be a little higher than we had first predicted, maybe by a basis point, or 10 basis points rather. So we'll be getting those to you, but they're less than your resolution, which was 2.5% is what the max in that was. So we still don't have the construction schedule from Weeks. With LGC approval, the county will be able to execute that contract, and then we'll be expecting to hear from the contractor with the construction schedule. And as soon as we get that, that's going to be the subject of some public outreach to be sure that folks know when that's going to happen. Because I know the property owners are very interested, and property management organizations are as well. That's really the only update I have. You've heard it from a great staff. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you, Drew. Item number 12, Mayor's Agenda. I have quite a few items here tonight. First of all, I'm certainly pleased and honored to be elected back as mayor of the town of Duck Council, and I look forward to working with this council over the next 2 years. We certainly have a lot of opportunities and a lot of challenges, but this is going to be a great council, and I really look forward to be working closely with everybody. And welcome aboard, Tony. And Nancy, we will miss you. Chairman Mayor's monthly meetings have now started to back up again since COVID started to wind down. We did have a meeting sponsored by Manio this last month, and one of the subjects was redistricting and the pros and cons of that. I mean, there was a lot of concern about Dare County being split in two, but then on the opposite argument was we'll get double the representation, which could be good. So I'm not sure, of course, we're not sure what's going to happen with the redistricting, but it's in the courts, and there's not much more that we're going to be able to do about it. With the league, I had a finance committee meeting on Monday, had an executive committee meeting today, and we got a board meeting next Thursday for Drew and I, another one of these Zoom meetings. From a standpoint of my local leadership board activity, we're actually having our quarterly board meeting on the 14th. We've actually, because we're restarting that whole program, and we've actually hired a resource now to help in the grant, getting us grants into the foundation and getting a lot of support from the league on the foundation. So we've got quite a marketing package put together. So hopefully we're going to be able to have a good, successful rest of the year. Looking forward to the Yuletide celebration. That's always a great time. And I am presenting to the Duck Community and Business Alliance next Sunday morning at 9 o'clock in this room. If anybody's interested in attending the DCBA meeting, I'm sure it's open to the public. And what we do basically is we become kind of the main people giving them an update on what's happening in the town. And I think they're going to be looking at reviewing what their charter is and a lot of other interesting things. So it should be an interesting meeting if anybody wants to join us. I think you're welcome to come. And I'm also going to participate with the Chamber Leadership Program on the 15th. This is one that many of our people, in fact, Joe ran it one year. It's going to be in Kitty Hawk. I think it's going to be Kitty Hawk, Southern Shores, and Duck. And I guess it's going to be kind of a roundtable discussion for an hour about government. So I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I would like to wish council staff and everyone a happy holidays and a happy new year. And with that, we'll go to council members' agenda, starting with Mayor Pro Tem Monica Thibodeau.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations to everybody. It's going to be looking forward to working with everyone. Thank you for your support as Mayor Pro Tem, and welcome Tony and Nancy. We're going to miss you greatly, so don't be a stranger to the town, please. I'm sure you won't. The only thing I'll report on is the Visitors Bureau meeting that everything's going well. We also had our audit report and very good report. I'm on the finance committee for the Visitors Bureau, and all that went very well. And I think everyone knows that the tourism numbers just continue to be off the charts. 2020, and as we've read in the paper, Dave Halleck from the National Park Service was reporting that, we're probably going to we've topped the highest visitation that we experienced just after 9/11 that summer, and could go to 3 million. So it's really an amazing amount of people interested in our area, and we're seeing the effects of it and seeing the benefits and everything else that comes along with tourism. But certainly the budget is very strong at the Visitors Bureau, and we see that reflected in our own budgets locally. I think 2022 is looking very strong as well, just from everything that we're seeing. So we'll just be ready to welcome everybody and have a very short off season. There's we talk about different cycles of what you do during the off season. There's no downtime. But anyway, wishing everybody a very happy holiday, and great to be a part of the Duck still. I'm very happy to be serving. So thank you so much, and everybody be safe out there.
Thank you, Monica. Councilmember Sandy Whitman.
I'd just like to congratulate everybody and thank Nancy for her number of years of service, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Sandy. Councilmember Tony Shiano, welcome aboard again.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I only have about 2 hours worth of material I'd like to cover. No, actually, I'm pleased to be here and look forward to working with the council. And Nancy, thank you for all your service, and thank you for voluntarily opening up a board seat which allowed me to be here through the election, but also allowed the 4 incumbents to be back again. So I think it's a good mix, and I look forward to a good year, and wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, item number 14, I'm going to open up public comments. If anyone would like to address the council, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There's no one wishing to do that. We'll close public comments. Is there any other business to come before council this evening? There being none, I'll remind council the next meeting will be Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Congratulations again.